years of history there when you turn around and look back at it for a moment. So I started my career a little bit in the public sector, the private sector, and then ended up landing in the public sector and worked in schools, many schools, from Ipswich through to Cowan Vale all the way to Toowong and everything in the western and southern cluster of Brisbane really. And a lot of different socioeconomic areas and different cultural groups, a lot of diversity. Some schools you stay for quite a long time, and some schools you're in and out, filling gaps and helping out situations. But yeah, and you see a lot of the kids are more families, so some of the diversity and coping with that and recruiting is needs to be mindful of.
A little bit confronted by the stories of how long people have been teaching. I don't think I've been pronounced just under 40 years. So I guess if we look at the essentials of recruiting, I guess we can look at two things, can't we? We can look at what the experience will be for the child, and part of that experience for the child is how we blend that child into an ensemble. So I guess instead of looking at some of the nuts and bolts of recruiting to begin with, maybe we can look at philosophically where you sit with we recruit to make just a wholesome experience for that child, or we recruit to make a wholesome experience for that child within an ensemble. So what do you think about that? Another barbecue stock. What do you think? Jonathan?
I think you have to take everything into consideration. If you're talking about the experience for the child themselves, I think it would be richer if they were playing in a group that had the diversity of instruments that supported success in an ensemble. If I had a violin ensemble, it would still work, it would still function, and it would still be a good experience, but it would still lacking the low end, or vice versa, if I only had cellos. So I think you do have to think about what the individual child is bringing to the experience and sort of cater for that as well. But I think you have to sort of guide and sort of set up a balanced experience. Do you agree? Like it's very selfish to say you must play this instrument because we need it. I mean, you still have to take their thoughts and their ideas and their aspirations into consideration, and you need to sort of curb that or help them make a better informed decision. I don't like to force anybody to play a different instrument, but you might suggest that they might have more success on a different instrument or a different path if they choose a different instrument. So you can comment about that too, with band and things. So
It's exactly the same. There's always going to be those instruments that are less popular, and we just have to do valid reasons for why this might be a better option for them. And just communicate, especially with the parents. Often it's the parents' influence or it's the peers' influence on them making their decision, and you need to guide them. So this is
Yeah, they've got a like to most listeners. They're hopeful for the long haul. And I found that there's a little bit of a need to be flexible too at certain times. If you put the kid on the wrong instrument and you discover that 6 months on, say, I think we should change and have that conversation. Should we shift from the trumpet to something else? And don't just open doors with it for everyone to disrupt your whole balance, but yeah, be mindful of accepting that and making changes where it's going to be better for everyone.
Given that, do you think that there's a situation where, well, I guess before again we get to that nitty-gritty of the process of recruiting, that whole parent thing is incredible. So, you're not blowing the tuba because it won't fit in my car. I mean, how do we deal with that parent thing? Because Jonathan, you were alluding to convincing the child that this might be a better way for them to go. What are our success stories with convincing parents that that is a better way to go for their child?
communication right at the start. So when you need to hear it,
sell those unique instruments for the personality types. Does your child not want to be hiding in with everyone else and not be noticed? Well, then these are the instruments for them. Does your child enjoy being an individual and wants to have to express something different and have a different sound? Well, then this is the instrument for them. There's more, you can accommodate that diversity and then put that in code.
It's about education as well, for the parents as well, because they don't know the role of the viola, or they don't know how it can be different to the violin. So I think you do have to do a promotional sort of advocacy for those instruments that aren't as traditional and sort of open up in different ways.
And as back to your original philosophy was, you are recruiting a cohort because half the kids just want to be there with their mates. So if you're talking to everyone and offering this experience for a large cohort, you've got a greater chance of filling the tuba chair or the trombone chairs because you've got a larger team to work from. And not every kid wants to be the soloist musician in school. So you're looking to find all those kids and you've got lots of mates joining in, the chances of finding them are greater.
So when we're heading towards process now, when we're looking at that recruiting, Lorena, you alluded to that, one recruiting a balanced band, or that's almost an oxymoron, a balanced band, isn't it? Forgive my words. That concept of recruiting a balanced band or a balanced string orchestra is a wonderful thing to aim for, but sometimes we're not necessarily in a situation where that can happen because, well, the situation we're in now, where you've got a school that there's so many kids coming in from somewhere else and hasn't trained them from the beginning of being in band, even though you might have a beginning band. It's a challenge, isn't it? How do we accommodate that now? So how do you deal with that in that situation? When you've got a cohort of kids that have come into, let's say, high school that have already been learning, and then a cohort of kids that have come in and they haven't been learning at all. So what do we do now?
Well, we're focusing in the band situation, we're focusing on next year when we recruit our next beginner ensemble on really filling the gaps. And we
In the senior ensembles?
well, just the gaps right from the beginning so that they will feed up through. We will get 30 new flute players at least probably, which is always going to be a problem in a girls' school. So when we do all our testing and promotional instruments, we will be promoting brass, obviously, and we'll probably over-recruit in that area because we know we're always going to have enough flutes and clarinets and saxophones. But Jonathan's, you've got something happening in strings.
Double basses. It's traditionally not a strong instrument for ladies. So we have to go out there and very, very actively, I suppose, promote the positive aspects. You can have an instrument at home, you can have one at school, no transport issues. You have to think about this sort of stuff. You have to almost, it's advertising. You have to sell the product. And I think we talk about different paths and going for the road that's travelled. And sometimes people start out with an instrument like violin, and they get to a point where they plateau. And I've been looking for those students that have plateaued at a certain spot, and sort of offer them the idea, or the opportunity to play viola, or if they have the physical aptitude for it, or swap to cello if they want to do something different. Just to keep it interesting and to build on the skills that they've already got and transfer those skills and boost them in a different sort of trajectory. So we have info sessions. Come and hold the double bass because people have never held a double bass before. So
And it can be a bit intimidating.
it can be very intimidating, and I've been really encouraging the girls to find a friend or somebody who they want to do this with, to kind of spur them along. It kind of pushes them along to practice, and it's kind of like a running partner when you're out exercising. You don't want to let them down. It's just that camaraderie that you get too. So definitely selling, but also selling like the positive aspects and the friendship aspect of it.
I think there are two girls' stories, get to the double bass one in a moment. But I can remember when I took my Kelvin High School band and orchestra to Victoria one time when we played in a friend's girls' school, and they were stunned. Tuba player. The two tubas were both female, and the girls just staring at the girls playing tuba. And of course, when it came for the walk around the orchestra, and some of you might remember a tuba player called Michelle. She was my tuba player. She just stood up and she played to the audience. And the teacher said that the recruit for lower grades the next year was so much easier. When I was at Kelvin High School again, the story I got in there, which was a conservatorium student, that played double bass in a workshop for double basses. And we had a professor from the United States. 4 years later, the graduating orchestra had 3 double basses in it, and they were all young women. Because they see married. So we've talked about one of the things I have written down here is how do we establish interest. And I guess you have communication skills with parents, but you also, I think you should have students hear the instruments and have your ensembles play for kids and maybe take your ensembles to the primary schools and all that. These are things that we know. Let's get to some of the nitty-gritty. How do you choose? Okay? How do you use aptitude testing or whatever as part of your recruitment process? And I'll bring one more story to cast this on. There was a friend of mine who wasn't allowed to do the recruitment in their primary school. The music coordinator would do the recruitment because she knew better than the instrumental teacher. Okay? And she did the recruitment. And the sad story was a young girl who was so keen, so bright, and all she wanted to do was play flute, and she had a withered arm. And so when the time came, the instrumental teacher helped her. You know, what did you do? The child couldn't even reach around. And of course, then the classroom teacher said, it's the instrumental teacher's fault. They should have thought about this. But they were allowed to recruit. So let's talk about the actual aptitude testing and all of that sort of stuff. Maybe go a little deeper into that communication with parents. And let's talk about that relationship that sometimes happens where there's the head of music or the music coordinator who might guide the recruitment process. Sorry, they threw the ball.
I know you have a very thorough system.
I do have a very thorough system. I mucked around with the system for years and years and years, and I finally sat down and wrote a database that sorts it out. Because I was mucking around with spreadsheets just too much, and it gets kind of complicated. But it's only a tool, and the decisions that are made are my decisions ultimately. And I pull up, put as much data into. In certain schools, you have certain levels of cooperation, so you throw in your Selma scores or your Tamba test scores if you're using those. You throw in a score that relates to their academic ability. You throw in a classroom behaviour sort of management homework score. You throw in the music teacher's score. You throw in a whole bunch of whatever data you can find.
And this is your communication with the teachers and the staff.
And then one of the biggest parts of the data is the physical aptitude testing, when I pull the kids out and give them instruments and watch what they do with them. And then there's a bunch of notes that go with that. And so imagine all the data goes in and you throw it in the database, and then I just pick from the top down. The first thing I choose actually is my trumpet players. I go in there first and find them, and then I find my percussionists.
So tell us why that is.
I've had too many bands where the trumpets just didn't cut it. You need that powerhouse at the top. You need that trumpeter, and you need that percussion, and then the next thing I choose is my flutes. So I find some of the kids that have the highest scores in all those areas, and they want to play the trumpet, and they want to play percussion, and they want to play flute. Bang, choose 5 kids straight away. And then it depends, then you look at the data and see who rises to the top. Oh, there's a really top clarinet kid who wants clarinet, it's great, I haven't got any of those yet, put one in. And I'm pulling the kids off the top of that data all the time and work my way out and fill up the band. And then I start to fill up the whole band. And once the band's starting to get full, and you're getting down to the middle of the altitude of all the place, you'll find kids that are going, great here, terrible there, great here, terrible there. And then you've got to make the tough decisions about where you like to put them. But you're always considering what they want to do. And then the other thing I'm considering is what they shine at when we test with them. Because they'll come in saying, I want to play the drums. And they go out saying, hey, clarinet is pretty cool. And so they've changed their mind because they've never touched a clarinet before. So
they've had a chance.
yeah, and then there's a whole other. I'm not going to talk about it for too long, but then when you get into the bottom, it's really tough. Who's going to miss out and why? And then I've got all that evidence to say, look, your child has missed out. Unfortunately, I can only take this many kids with absolute to the max. They scored low here, 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 here. But I also say in my letter to the parents, we're not saying your child can't learn music. We're just saying we haven't got a place in our program. And if they're really passionate about learning, they can go and learn privately and come and join me later. So everyone has got an option. Let's try and set it up that way.
Would you let that child in if mum and dad went and bought them an instrument?
If, after they had private lessons, because I can't fit them in my program. As soon as I overload my program, I'm diminishing all those other kids' opportunities. So if they go away for a year and have private lessons, they come back and play for a week, I can go, okay, you're really keen, you're going to do it no matter what, let's fit you in. So they'll rise to the top if they can.
So Jonathan, you seem to know James.
I do know James is really technique. Yeah. I've worked with James at a primary school at Jeremy Heights.
And what have you?
What have
I was going to say stolen. Let's
It's
sort of appropriated.
I have borrowed. I like the concept that James comes up with, and I know it's hard to convey the emotional side of this, but the number for the score on the test is interpreted as a number, and I've always strive to have a recruiting process that's really transparent. That's a really, really big word for me with recruiting. So everybody knows what's happening at what time, everybody's included, and the biggest test for me is if you can start here and get to the result, you should be able to go from the result and work backwards and see what happened and analyse and that sort of stuff as well. So I like the fact that your system has a number or a representation of an abstract concept that can be very easily conveyed to parents. And I think sometimes I would want to know that my son was being taken seriously and that there was an area that he could improve on. I would like to know that. And to have it as a number or a quantifiable thing means that he hasn't been forgotten or it's not an emotional decision. It's a very factual decision. And I think, sort of expanding on what you were saying, I think the best process is to get as much information as you can. I mean, classroom teachers, music teachers who are helpful and who have been there for a long time have actually seen these students in their music room for years, sometimes 3 or 4 years before you see them, and they have a knowledge of that student in their classroom. And I think it's important to take that as one aspect of your recruiting and get as much information as you can. I think we used a similar form when I was there, and it had a section for parental support, and I think that's one of the things that is, and these are confidential forms that we deal with very sensitive information, but you are relying on other people to help you gather that information. So, but
Especially when you're itinerant.
Especially when you're itinerant, and you have to ask somebody to do a test, or you have to go in and do the test and then go away. You need those facts and those figures and that quantifiable, that information. It's very similar. I look for in the aptitude test. I have a very high score for rhythm. I took a lot about rhythm because for me it's one of the areas that I've found that if I can really target rhythm, I can target everything else as it comes, because everything is based on, for me, and my teaching style is that rhythm, the understanding of beat and how it works. And I think too, as well as all the factual information, you're also looking for anecdotal stuff like, can they sit in a chair that day? Like you're watching not what they can do, but it's how they do it.
That's all the trumpet players got.
I have a bunch of codes for that. They've got like comments.
You have a lot
of different things.
No, but it's and the students wonder. They go, "Oh, but I'm not doing it right. I've never done it before." But it's not That's not the important part. I tell them I'm actually watching to see what you do when I correct you. It's not a fact of can I do it, can I make it sound. You know, you might have a physical limitation that says that you cannot play that bass. I'm sorry. The cello might be a better option. So that's factual, and then there's anecdotal stuff as well. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Lorinda, I've got great memories of your St Thomas War band. I mean, the whole program was just terrific. And I know you had pretty good relationships internally within the school, and you know, supportive administration, and so on and so forth. Maybe share some of those stories with us, because I can remember the day you got me to do a workshop, and I walked in and it was like a Cecil B. DeMille movie. You know, there were thousands of kids with instruments. It was just enormous. We filmed the floor of the hall. Remember? You know, it was So share some of those stories.
I think I've always been fortunate with whatever school I've been in, that I haven't had to make those hard decisions to say no, you can't play, because I'm not a soccer. I want all kids to have the opportunity. And St Thomas More was just, they had no other music program there. There was no strings to compete with or anything like that. So it just became a tradition that everyone joined the band. So 2/3 of the school were in the music program.
That's a lot of kids.
It was a lot of kids. The beginner band would be usually between 60 and 80, and the senior band between 80 and 120. And you'd go to competitions and they would perform on stage, and they'd spill down the edges or behind the curtains. But you make it work. And I've always managed to get balanced ensembles, really similar to how James has done, like the same collecting of information from all the teachers and the parenting support and all the song testing or your benefit testing or whatever, and then the TAM testing, because then you do have all that data to support your decisions. And I think it's just the way we sell the instrument. I've never had a problem with having a balanced ensemble, because when you're showing those kids those instruments, you sell the tuba, and you sell the bass clarinet, you sell the trombone, all those bass instruments that you need to support 60 to 80 kids. You make sure that they're the ones they're going to look at first.
Yeah, because the food sells itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, you never have to do that, no.
That's right. And the alto saxophone. Tenor saxophone? No, because it costs more. You know? And it's bigger, and it's a bit frightening when you
Can't put on the bus.
Can I know I can't keep myself on track here, but can I lead just quickly, given that we're moving into teaching grade 4s now in Education Queensland, and for whatever that's called these days, Queensland schools or something, is there a difference? You know, and the younger you go, I mean, you're recruiting second graders going to third, or are they in second grade?
When I left, we were only allowed to recruit grade 3s.
Right, still. So there's a different mindset with the younger they are as well, isn't it? Because, you know, 5th graders or 4th graders.
And I mean, with strings, it's a little bit different because you can get different size instruments.
Yeah.
But you can't get a 3/4 size flute.
Well, my St Thomas More band, they all started in year 4. It didn't matter, it didn't have to be grade 5 like Education Queensland.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a great deal of difference between teaching year 4s and year 5s. Although now the age is a little bit different since they started.
6 months.
Yeah.
There's 6 months.
But the perceived difference was negligible.
What about you, James? Do you find there's anything different? Recruiting a little lower into the school?
This is my first year that I've taught year 4s, and I have found it a little bit different, but not in the way that I thought. I've still got those crack kids that are just great in year 4, and I forget that in year 4 after 2 weeks I think they go 5. But generally as a pool, we do work a bit slower, and progress slower. You have more talking time, less intense time, but they're all coming along fine, and you just give them time. Give those little tiny kids with small lungs time to buy those brass instruments, and just take it down, relax with them, and they'll get there. Yeah, it's working. I had trepidations about how it's going to go.
Yeah, good. Tell us a little bit about socioeconomic considerations. Because I don't know whether when I was in the education department, the rule was after having an instrument for a year, the child had a computer of their own. And I was forever on the lookout for those kids that couldn't afford it, and to make sure that they were going to still the instruments, even to go to the parents' community and say, we need to buy a couple more of this because these clarinets are getting old. Keep the old clarinets for the kids that couldn't afford it. I mean, tell us about the impact of that socio-economic situation and how you deal.
I've taught for many years at many schools where buying an instrument just wasn't going to happen for the majority of the kids. And you have to plan for that if they join the program, you've got to give them an instrument for the entire time they're there. And the schools know that and they support it. They just say, well, yeah, we've only got 12 clarinets, it's a lot, but that's all you can have in your band. Because occasionally a kid will buy one, but you have to just restructure your program to roll those instruments around through the 3 years of the program, because they're not going to buy one, they just can't. And you just even have to have your station reads and boils and greases. There's 2 free reads a month, here you go, here's your 2 reads, get playing.
And so James, when you had those situations, we had schools where they could. Were you also at the same time in another school where the affluence had its way? And
Yes,
do that?
yeah, you drive.
How did it work with your attitude, your approach to this?
Every school is so different, and it changes all the time too. You walk into there and you look at the environment, you look at what you've got to do and how you've got to do it, and what you can do for these kids with what you've got. Because in a public system, you only have finite resources and time, so you've just got to allocate what you can do to the best you can do it. And so you approach a different socio-economic school with a different mindset. That's and the school helps you make those decisions. At our school we do this, and if you like it, go with it. If you don't like it, challenge it. Find out if you can change it and why.
And slowly, like you incorporate a buying process so that you can put aside money each year to buy 2 cellos, and then another 2 cellos, and then another 2 cellos, because cello is such a big instrument to buy. It's the largest one that the students have to purchase. And we have had similar problems at the end of the first year. Our retention rate was very low because people didn't want to buy the instrument. So more and more we would have to sort of help by having instruments available to hire.
And I guess with the different size instruments too, they don't want to invest in
That's exactly right.
a little tiddly violin because they're going to get the grown-up one someday.
That's right. And just to reinforce that instruments are like shoes. They have to be the right size. They're not like uniforms. You can't get away with a huge cello. You have to have the right size. So that helps. And then you have to make sure you buy good quality instruments.
Because you need them to last.
And you need a plan to replace them every 10 years. So you have to add that sort of process to your budgeting and all that sort of stuff, make considerations about that too.
And what did you do at St John's Ward? Did they purchase or did the school provide instruments? Because I mean, that's what it is that they can provide.
Yeah, when I started, they had nothing. It was the first any sort of music had been in the school other than recorder, and we started off with just getting the kids to hire their instruments, and they gradually paid them off. There's lots of those schemes around, and it started off as an academy program way back then, and there didn't seem to be any problem with that, and that's just what they got used to. That that's what they would have to do is hire these instruments, or hire it, and they pay it off in the end. And gradually we build up the tubas and the vacuums, the bass clarinets, the bigger instruments.
Yeah, that are school stock.
That are school stock.
Yeah. Did you ever have any kids buy those big instruments?
Yeah, I had a year 5 boy buy a baritone and saxophone because he loved it.
Oh. Is he still in therapy?
A wealthy father that never saw him and lived in Japan.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So it's a guilt baritone.
That's a frightening thought, that guilt. Baritone sax. Let me tell you just a little bit more about this relational thing in recruiting with the other staff in the school. Tell me some of the stories of convincing the principals of the value of investing in instruments. How, for example, did you convince a principal that we've got to set up this hire program with a retailer because I'm going to bet in, blah, 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 blah. What were the sorts of things that you talked to the principal about and convince them of about the value of music and bands?
I've always been lucky. I've always had great principals that either just ignored what I did or were very supportive of what I did, but they let me do what I wanted to do.
They use evidence. Ignore what I did, but yeah.
And I think once they hear what you're producing and how happy the parents are, they'll do anything. They're quite happy. They only need a little bit of proof to see how well something's going to give you the support. And they, often they can watch what I was doing and they can see the educational value of it. So it was never a hard sell. And it's such a showcase.
You let it sell itself.
Yeah.
You don't sell it, you let the parents do it for you.
There's not many things that a school has that's a product that can be a promotional thing for the school. And having a band or a string group or whatever play and advertise the school is such a great commodity.
It's different to sport. I mean, it's not competitive all the time. There are occasions where you do, estates and competitions and things. But you're right, you don't sell it, you let the evidence speak for itself, and you invite and you cajole and you kind of, you talk about what's happening and you're out there, you're doing it, and you're leading by example. And I think that's, it's...
Yeah, and like Mark Sullivan says, keep your enemies close. You draw into the room and you make them watch the engagement that's going on and what's happening. How beneficial it is, and it becomes good to go with this.
I can remember the science subject listers back in the days of those one subject master and subject listers. She was just unconvinced that music was any good. So I said, "You want to come on music to it?" All right, because the principal said it'd be a good idea. And she came back to every concert from now on. There was never a problem with the kid going to music class because she understood what was happening. It was just really true. So. You said nice things about it. I just convinced them to get your enemies close by and all of those sorts of thinking marks on it. But what are the things you talk to them about the benefits? If you were trying to sell me now on the idea of my child playing the trumpet, seeing that something's come up, what would you sell me on? Is it trumpet? Is it lifelong learning? Is it music education? Is it helps you with your maths? What is it?
It's all those things. You just did it. You just solved it.
But I think...
There's so much information
convinced. What sort of a future is there for my child learning the trumpet? I mean, what do you turn out to be if you play the trumpet?
I think there is a lot of stuff out there as a side effect of playing music, and I think that's all the hype and it improves your resilience, it improves your skills, spatial awareness, all that sort of stuff. That's a great result of learning music, and it's great to put on a poster, and it sells music to principals and big people that need that sort of people. But I think if you were talking to parents, I would actually talk more about the transferable skills that you're learning with an instrument, that quality time that you're spending on something and devoting to, that will then sort of help them devote time and energy to mastering their schoolwork, and that self-discipline. Like, these are the transferable skills that you learn when you're learning an instrument. All the rest is a side effect, and it's fancy and it's lovely, and you can look at it under an MRI. There's TED Talks, and there's Sting, and there's books, and there's CDs from Mozart, and all that sort of stuff. But if you're looking at the actual transferable skills that you learn with an instrument, I think that factually is even more tangible.
When you're convincing your parents, there's that diversity again. They're all got different values. So you tell one parent, you do a high-level aim in the exam, and you get 2 IB points. Bang, solved. They're in. You tell another parent that that it's going to help them develop their teamwork skills, and they're going to be self-expression. You tell other kids it's going to build their self-esteem. You've got to cover all those bases to all those sort of things that we know that it helps with, and engage each person's interest as to what music might have for their child. And if you've covered all those bases, and this is what's possible, promising we're going to do the world for every single child, but we're providing this service, and if you get on board and participate in it well, these are all things that help.
I think kids get out of it what they put into it. It's like anything. If they put effort in, you get results.
And you just start at the beginning with that little bit, and then you see how much of a bite you want to take.
I'm still battling with the concept of not talking to them about value of music itself. We still talk so much about the other things because I guess it's the language they understand. They understand teamwork and not the ineffable joy of music. You said that and I just look at you and say, you're what? I mean, but I still wonder about that. I might just say, oh, that country. Because it's a little bit right. Come on, man.
I think that's a really intrinsic motivation to do music. And I think by the time they come to an expression of interest meeting or something like that, they've already sort of canvassed that side of things. And they probably, there's a probable...
Do you think the parents say?
Well, I would as a parent, but I'm a musician. But I think by the time they get there, I don't know, maybe we should do more of it, but I think there's some of that intrinsic motivation built in already to try to do it. And I think when they come to a meeting, they need something a little bit more solid. Not that it's not solid, but it's a little bit hard to quantify. Still important.
Yeah, it's a good you two have not yet changed to see. I just wondered whether he's thinking about something.
I'm processing.
I think the worry noise is the projector that it might be changed.
No. Yeah, I was just thinking that some parents just turn up for 20, 25 minutes and find out what it's all about. And you've got the parents in the audience who are, perhaps orchestral players themselves, have got an immense amount of experience and know all about it already. And you've got those people who don't even play music at home and don't really have it as part of their lives at all. And so they're like, what do you want to do that for? And they bring something home and make some noise, and they're first people to complain about what's going on. There's a lot of things you've got to cover there, isn't there? And that intrinsic value of playing music itself, I think once you start playing music, you find that.
I can remember my dad saying, "You're going to do music? You're going to do music?" And I said, "Yes, I want to be a musician." He said, "What bloody use is that?" And because he wanted me to get it trained. You'll never be without a job. And in my whole 43 years of full-time employment, I was 6 weeks without a job. Between one musical gig to the next, there was a 6-week hiatus. But it's hard to do this. There's just drugs. They're hard to be convinced that there's something valuable in it. Steph?
Have you come across more parents that have gone through the instrumental music program?
Oh yeah, and it's almost a given. It's like, I did it, you're doing it, cool, put them in.
I just want to so you're seeing that as an influence? Yeah. That's good. I was just curious.
Yeah, it is. Well, and that's really terrific because this is the generation that's experiencing that, and I was part of the generation that was putting the first cohorts through, and trying to convince those parents that there's value in making music, and the flatulent noise that the makes on the trumpet will eventually get better. It was the sound of a strangled cat.
So, as a follow-up question, is it getting easier or harder?
I find it's easier to recruit. It's still hard to recruit balance ensemble, but it's easier to get the kids in the door, and then they enjoy it too because my mum plays the clarinet, and then they play the clarinet too. It's another connection to family. It's great.
I think it's easier to get them, and it's easy to educate with things like YouTube and the internet and all that sort of stuff. It's very accessible to look up what double bass is and that sort of thing. I think it's harder to retain them because this generation, they don't sit. I mean, we're trying to sell an 18th century instrument here. When you send a letter in the 18th century, it could take years to get somewhere. Now, with an email, it's instant. So people want that instant feedback from an instrument that doesn't, it takes time to develop. And it's actually a really old world skill in a new world. So to try and retain students is a little bit more difficult, a bit more challenging.
And I guess also, Jonathan, there's the fact that so many parents now are trying to let their kid do everything. You know, it's music this lesson this night, it's ballet the next night, it's ballet the next night. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. Well, I think that leads very comfortably into that next consideration. You know, we were talking around it, but tell us a little bit more about the parental situation and how you deal with it. How would you, if Lorena wonderfully dealt with me, why I should play the trumpet, how are you going to deal with my dad? You know, what are the sorts of things you're going to say to convince him? Is it just going to be Jonathan's concrete things, you know, makes him a good team player? What else is it that you're going to talk about with my dad?
I think it all comes down to the initial communication and the information that you give them so that they're well informed on the whys and hows of it.
Okay, well, tell us about the sort of information that you would have sent out to gather the parents in for that initial parent meeting.
Well, I'd sent home the note and everything, but in the actual parent meeting, I've always had that year's beginner ensemble play, so they can see where their child will be at that same time the next year. And it usually used to line up with they were going to go and play at the festival, you know, in the next week or something. So it was a good practice for them, and they can see that their child is going to be able to do this and then go and do that, which is all very exciting. And then you can demonstrate to them, you know, you set up your band so you only have the flutes and the trumpets and the drums play. This is what it would sound like if we didn't have the trombones and tubas. Now play it with everyone playing, and they hear why and they understand why. It's very easy to convince them if you've got something there that makes it easy for them to understand.
So you're actually recruiting parents?
Yes, yeah, I say that to her and I say to them, we're not only putting you into the program, you're joining the program too. So they're fully aware right there that this is not just the kid in their room doing something by themselves, we need you.
And that's how the late starter program started back 20 years ago. But they all started because of this. Their child was learning to play an instrument, all learned to play it at the same time. And they were very successful programs at the time.
Yes, that's certainly they were amazing.
I think there's a question.
There's an online question. When you have your parent meeting, when do you have it? Before the students apply or after the students have been allocated their instrument?
We've had a really good response to putting out an expression of interest, doing the recruiting process, that is allocating instruments, ending up the list, inviting to come to a meeting to say, you've been selected, congratulations, you're successful, this is what it entails.
Here's your offer.
Here is your offer. If you'd like to accept it now after you've been to the meeting, now that you know everything about it, we're glad to have you. And it also gave us a chance, if there was somebody who really wanted to be in the program but didn't make it, come along and find out more about the program, even though you're on the waiting list. So before accepting, if that makes sense, before accepting the offer, so that everybody, all the stakeholders know what you can provide and what they're signing up for. Because it is a commitment. They don't get themselves to band in the morning, orchestra in the morning. They don't get spurred on all by themselves to practice. They don't get reeds or strings or things that they need. It all has an element of that parental support.
And then you've got to push back again. And I say something to them. I say it's really hard to get into the instrumental music program, and it's really hard to get out. So they're aware that they can't just write in a note and say, I'm leaving now.
Yeah, but it makes it valuable. You're signing a contract together with your child. You need to be informed about what you're signing up to. This is a big commitment.
So, did you do the Thomas More thing before? So you've done it after, you've done the testing and made the offers, and you've invited the parents in before they've applied. So how is that different? You know, I mean, obviously that's different, but you know, what sort of things do you look at?
I wanted to explain to the parents, because they have these preconceived ideas that their little blonde-haired daughter is going to play flute. And you just want to open their minds to consider something else and why. So I felt if I could show them and explain to them first, when they write down their three preferences to try instruments, I mean, I may have done all the summer testing and all that aptitude testing beforehand, but before I tried them on the instruments and they gave me that piece of paper with their choices, I didn't want to see flute, clarinet, saxophone on every single piece of paper. I wanted to see more variety, and that's what I did.
So you convinced it beforehand, and we ended up convincing after the
Yeah.
offer.
And you get those parents that come along, have been given a baritone, and they storm into the room and, baritone, what were you thinking? And then you have to take them through that process, and you may talk them around, and you may not. You may just, and I have a process where if you really don't like your first offer, hop into the waiting list and come through with the second round.
A second round. Okay, well, let's look at the timetable of that a little bit. You're recruiting around the time of festival, so this is October sort of time for the next year.
Yeah, usually it was the end of term 3. I wanted all my paperwork done. So right at the beginning of term 4, I would have my parent information evening, and then it would, take up the rest of the term getting all the notes back.
Yeah. And gentlemen?
Similar, maybe a little bit later, the end of October, we have our parent meeting, that sort of area.
Actually, we're bringing it forward again this year a little bit. Our aptitude testing is happening next couple of weeks, and then we're sending the office home at the beginning of the term. Give everybody a holiday and get into it. But you've sorted all. You've got a term to sort it all out before it hits the next year.
Before those, they hit the ground with a big run, hopefully. I hope that was of some use to the person asking the question. Craig?
The discussion's been a lot about, with regard to primary schools, and if you then can go on and keep them going. There are some schools, like the one that we're at, has students starting in 7th, with not a lot of contact with the feeder schools. What would your suggestions be in that type of situation, how you could recruit, because you don't have that luxury or the opportunity to be able to access the students when they're young, you're often just dealt with whatever you get, and then you have to try to make something of that.
We're in that situation now. And in that first week of school, all the new girls do the Bentley test, and we collate all their results, and they have a day to sign up to try out and things like that.
They nominate themselves, really.
And then you track down the ones with really good scores.
And you tunnel them. So, you've got a great score, you should do something with this. You could put this towards something that would work. And we ended up with 8 violins, 4 violas, 4 cellos and 2 double basses, which is a perfect beginner string orchestra. But we've lost a few on the way. I mean, you can open the doors. I think when students are in high school in grade 7 now, you can not rely on them, but you kind of put the information out to them first and see if you get any takers. And then, as you said, it's a case of following up the ones who got good scores that weren't in ensembles already or learning an instrument. And it's interesting too then to find out the scores of the current students that are coming in. It gives you a good, it gives you another database of profile of areas that they might not be so good at. Does that help?
Do you pinpoint? Like, you're saying you need violas or cellos. Do you go and find those good kids and go, have you thought of playing me?
We do, and at the moment we're offering double bass. We're offering, we do things like no higher fee for the year, just to make it a little bit easier to start, a little bit more exciting or interesting. I mean, we get up there and we say, you should play brass.
Yeah, and similar to some of our flute students, have you tried this soon?
You have to, right? You have to.
Yes. We've ended up with 2 concerts now.
And we've had some change to viola, and we've had some violins change to double bass.
I think also, and I know it's a different thing now because it's grade 7, they are different in their attitudes, so they're becoming mini adults, and even though they haven't reached enough level of maturity to completely make their own decisions, they don't know that yet. And so they really think they know. I can remember what I used to do was, in that first week when we did Bentley tests at Carlton Grove High, we we also played a concert for the whole grade 8 cohort, and we handed out, fill in the instruments if you like. And I had a list of the instruments that were available, and there was no flute, there was no trumpet, there was no alto saxophone, none of it was
I did
available.
the same when I was a
Top-
girl.
Top of the list were all the things that I needed for the next few years. There's another question on.
There is.
Sorry, Joel, because I have a question which still relates to that.
Sorry, I'll wait.
My apologies. But what have you seen though, if you've been recruiting grade 7, are they far behind the others, like as they go down the track? Like once they get to year 10, how far behind are they from year 5, once they start year 5, year 3 or whatever it may be?
I can answer that. Our beginner violins are at the standard of our third violins who started 2 or 3 years ago, who have come from primary schools. And I think it depends on the pace at which you pitch and at which they can learn. I think it goes back to you talking about grade 4s, and recruiting grade 4s and being a bit slow. I think when you're recruiting grade 7s, you do have to move faster because there's an expectation there from them that they're getting older and they have more self-awareness that I do want to be able to do this quicker. And that, how are your beginners going?
Oh, they definitely work a lot faster than year 5s.
Yeah, you can just zoom through book 1.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joel?
You can just zoom through book 1. It gets to that age. They pick up the concepts really quick.
And some of them that have been recruited have played other instruments before, so the reading is a little bit easier, and you're not struggling to combat with letter reading as well as music reading. So they've got a certain level of maturity and expectations a bit higher in grade 7.
You can use more complex languages and give them more advanced concepts earlier.
You can double up concepts in a week. It doesn't have to just be a single focus each week.
Joel?
It's actually a similar question. So, any ideas for recruiting in high school, and especially with students in year 7? They only have a few years to learn before they finish up.
Yeah, I think that answers some of that.
The concept's a good idea. I think you need to get out and you need to.
I think they need to hear. They really need to hear instrument. And one of the things we talked about at the On the Stand in Maryborough conference was Bruce Pearson saying that he funded, he put quite a deal of money into academic, scholarly research into the preference that the child has of the sound that they like. And I can remember when I was a child, I heard the bugler on Anzac Day service, and I said, I want to do that. And I made that my career. I'm not playing Anzac Day service. but you know what I mean? I was just so enticed by that brass sound. And that was it. I just wanted to do that.
So it's funny how students decide what they want to play. For me, it was because the cool girl who sat at my table played flute. So I wanted to be like her. That's changed along the way. But that was my first reason for playing an instrument. My parents were one of those parents, they didn't even listen to music. Either dad turned the radio on in the car, it was for Parliament.
Something ridiculous.
But, if I went back now, I think I'd like to play trumpet.
Do you think there's a big disparity between what kids think they'd like to play when they first walk into the room to when they walk out the other end?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they think,
Especially if they've touched it and they felt what it's like, especially wind instruments, the ring buzzing on your lip or the mouthpiece. Sometimes they immediately dislike it. Don't like the sound or what it feels like. The saxophone is too big. Yeah.
And I think another idea for recruiting would be to have an opportunity for the students to try out all the instruments. My wife has done some recruiting where they have all of the grade 5s to a program, and there's some way of tracking them by giving them some sort of paddle pop or something. I can't remember what it is, but they go around to each table and they can try everything before they do it, and they get the tutors to demonstrate and the students to demonstrate. And again, it's about education, about showing them what it sounds like and feels like. Having something up against your neck is not natural. Do you like that? Do you want to sit down? Do you want to play double bass?
I think there are so many things that we've canvassed this evening I'd like you to think just for a moment about how you might sum up in 25 words what you think the essential things in the crew. And I would like to suggest that what we need to do is think more about the music, but that's just because I'm a dilapidated old man of the association. So if you're not having to convince me to play the trumpet or my dad that I should be able to, now share with our audience, what is the essential thing in 25 words of this? James, I'm starting with you.
The essential thing for
For a career. What would you like to leave as your summary for tonight? That was one.
We're providing something that they can actually really do, and it can be really fun and meaningful, and they can make things and have a quality of life around that if they want to do that. It's not just academic writing in books and things. It's you can create.
John?
I'm just looking over my notes that I took. I think that every student deserves the right to learn to play an instrument if they so choose. I think it's up to us to balance the limitations and challenges that we have and to sort of get a balance between all of the stakeholders that are involved, the school, the teacher, the student, the parents, and try and make it work to support this young person to learn an instrument. I'm sorry.
Do you want me to fill a little bit more about something else? Sure.
I think that successful recruiting is vital for a successful program, and I think communication and arming them with all the knowledge of what happens is the key.
Good. I'd just like it noted that for all the musicians who supposedly can count, she's the only one who got under 25.
Did it?
Yeah, I've picked up on three things that were said tonight, one from each of you. Jonathan, you said supporting success in an ensemble is an essential thing to allow parents to understand and children to understand what this is all about. And I think that is an essential thing. James, you talked about your preparedness to go to the parents of the child and say, you know, we're 6 months down the track and I think we've made a mistake. Let's try this now and see how we go. And I think that's an excellent thing because that doesn't happen much. People aren't happy to turn around and say, I think we made a mistake, because we all own that error, particularly instrumental music teachers. And I think your consistent urging that we need to communicate is just so vital. We aren't very good at it. Musicians aren't very good at communication because we do our major communication through our instrument. That's why drama teachers often are the heads of performing arts, because their cachet is language, and ours is the language of music. That sounds so sweet, doesn't it? But you know what I mean. And what we have to do is become greater advocates within that whole arts program. Steph's going to come back and conclude in just a moment. Let me say it's wonderful for ABODAQ to put this activity on to give the chance for these things to be talked about. It's great to have the expertise of the three of you here this evening. The history, the experience, and the genuine desire to see the best outcome for the child. And it's an inspiring thing for me to see that after all of the years that I've been involved, that there's still this bubbling going on to make a wonderful experience for the young people of today in Queensland and across the broad landscape of this country. That there's music to be had, there's music to be experienced, and there's music to know. So thank you very much. Stay
Ladies and gentlemen, please thank our panel, James McCooley, Jonathan Sorzetto and Lorinda Davidson, as well as our chair, Ralph Holcomb, for their wonderful conversation this evening.
information about ABODAQ activities, please jump on our website www.abodaq.org.au, and hopefully we'll see you at SHEP Queensland in October and at our reading day with Brian Balmajors. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. That's good.
Is it Balmajors or is it Balmajors?